Hi guys, so today we're going to talk about solving two-step equations, and that means it's going to take us two steps to actually get the final answer. So let's remember what our final objective is when it comes to solving an equation. We still want to get the variable by itself, right? We want to still get the variable by itself, which pretty much means we want a coefficient that equals 1. Remember, that's what our whole goal is. So we want like 1x or 2 or 1y or 1z, but this is kind of our goal right here. All right. So when there's two-steps equations, then let's talk about what those two steps are. So the first step, step one is we want to make 0. So remember when we had to make 0 before by using the additive inverse, right? So another way of saying this is we want to undo the plus and the minus. We want to do that first. So solving an equation is like going backwards to figure out the answer. So what is it that's missing so that the left side is the same as the right side of the equal sign? So if we're going to work backwards, then we're going to kind of do the order of operations backwards. So we want to undo pluses and minuses, or adding and subtracting first. Okay. Then for step 2, once we've done that, we can make 1. Okay. And we make 1 by undo multiplication and division. Now, there are some things to be careful of here, because it could involve things that look like fractions or that are fractions. So what this is going to look like sometimes, let's see if I can do this well. Well, that's not bad. You can use, or it could be a possibility that you could use the reciprocal. Okay, so, and here's the reason why. Remember, we're trying to make 1, and this reciprocal, if I have 2/3 and we multiply by the reciprocal, is flip it, so 3/2. If we flip it, that equals 1, because these diagonals cancel each other out, or it's like saying 2 divided by 2, but diagonally. So what happens is those cancel each other out. They don't make 0, they make 1, and that's why the reciprocal is very important when we're undoing multiplication and division. Okay, so let's look at the first problem and how we're going to do this. So, and here's how you can tell it's a two-step equation. I've got multiplication here and I've got addition. So I've got 2 operations here, which means it's going to take me 2 steps to undo all that and get x by itself. That's the way to think about it. I'm going to use the vertical, I'm going to flip the lined paper vertically again to help me organize everything, because the neater you are, I can't stress this enough, the neater you are, the better you will be at these. If you do this very messy, it's going to get confusing. So the neater you are and the more organized you are, the easier these problems are. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite the problem. So I'm going to put each term 2x plus 3 equals 7, like that. And our first step was to undo the adding or subtracting, or we want to make 0. So we want to make 0, right? We want to make 0 first. That means this part right here, this plus 3. Well, how do I make 0 with a plus 3? We minus 3. But whatever we do to one side of this equal sign, we have to do to the other side. So I've got a minus 3 on that side. Okay, this is what make 0 is. That's what I wanted. The 2x just comes down here now. So I've got 2x. The equal sign comes down in the same column. And then I've got 7 minus 3, which is 4. Okay, so that's step 1. And then step 2 is to make 1. make 1. So we're going to undo, this is multiplication. If I have 2 and I want a 1 in front of it, we're going to then divide by 2. Divide both sides by 2. Those cancel out and make a 1. And I'm left with x equal to 4 divided by 2 is 2. Oops, do that in black. And that is our final answer. And that is super neat. This is what the work should look like. Eventually, you won't need the columns anymore, but I find that students have a very difficult time lining things up. So make sure you line things up. So just turn your paper sideways and you can do your work sideways. It's perfect. All right, let's look at number 2. This is 5 plus 2n equals -1. Okay, here's where my equal sign is, so that's always going to stay there. Do not ever move that equal sign. And remember, our first step is to make 0. And so I'm looking, is this the one that I make 0, or is this one? It's this one, because this one's multiplication right here. So I'm going to take the 5. If it's a positive 5, because that's a positive 5, we want a -5, because that is what's going to be the opposite and make 0. But whatever I do here, I've got to do over here. So it's -5. All right, this makes the 0 that I want. This 2n, now this is a positive out front. We don't have to write it anymore. That's going to equal, here's where we have to be careful. A -1 and a -5, when I put them together, makes a -6. Okay, so it's like saying you lost 1 yard and then you lost 5 more yards. You've lost a total of 6 yards. Okay, and now we want to make 1. Okay, and to make 1, if this is multiply, we are going to divide both sides, because whatever you do to one side, you got to do to the other. That makes 1, which is what we want. We just don't write it. N equals -6 divided by 2 is -3. That is our final answer. Okay, so these ones students do okay with. They don't usually have a problem with it. It's when we get to the next problems, because they have fractions in it, and students just decide, I'm going to stop working because I don't want to look at fractions. Sorry, not an option. Not in my class. So here we go. We are going to rewrite it here. So I've got 25 equals 1/4 n minus 3. And the variable does not have to be on this side. It can be on either side. Just remember, we want to get it by itself. So we're going to be working with everything on this side right now. Okay? All right, so this is where my equal sign is. And the first thing we want to do is we want to make 0, right? So that's either with the 1/4 n or with this -3. I'm going to say this -3, we can make 0 by adding 3 to both sides. Because -3 and +3 make 0. And we're left with 1/4 n on, it looks like it's on the wrong side, but that's okay, equals, and then we do 25 plus 3, that's 28. And now we want to make 1. So if we go back and we say, oh, sometimes I'm going to have to use the reciprocal. Well, if I see a fraction multiplied, that's what we're going to do. So I have to remember, what is the reciprocal of 1/4? The reciprocal is multiply by 4/1. But if I multiply by 4/1 on this side, got to multiply by 4/1 on this side. Like that. And here's what happens. The 4s, because they're diagonal from each other, they make 1. And these two make 1. And now I just have n, or 1n. And that equals, this one is 4, it's 4 times 28 over 1. So that's negligible. So we're really going to do 4 times 28, which is 112. Just so you know, I had that written down ahead of time. I did not do that in my head. If you want to double check it, 28 times 4, that's 32, and you carry the 3, and that's 8 plus 3 is 11. So 112, just in case you were wondering. So that is how we do it with a fraction. It is just the reciprocal to make 1. All right, so let's try one more. Let me show you guys one more example. This one's going to be 2/5 r minus 5 equals 7. And we want to say, okay, first things first. Oh, wait. Let me mark my equal signs. All right, so first things first, we want to make 0. Let's make 0. And that's not going to be with this part here with the variable. It's going to be the number by itself. This isn't just 5, it's a minus 5. So how do I do a minus 5? I'm going to plus 5. But we've got to do it on both sides. So plus 5 on both sides. That goes away. Make 0. I'm just going to write this so it's closer to the equal sign. 2/5 r equals 7 plus 5 is 12. And then we need to make 1. Oh, well, we'll see how this works. And to make 1, we're going to use the reciprocal. So if it's 2/5, now I want 5/2. We're going to multiply by 5/2 on both sides. Okay? And here's what happens. The 5s that are diagonal, they make 1. The 2s that are diagonal, they make 1. They cross cancel. We get r equals, all right, so this is 12/1. We might have to do a little bit work off to the side. So 12/1 times 5/2. I notice, because you can do, I call it diagonal division. That's really what this is. 2 goes into 12 6 times. And 2 goes into 1 time. So this really becomes a 1, and that becomes a 6. And this then becomes 6 times 5. Oops, 6 times 5 is 30. And 1 times 1 is 1. So, I mean, I guess you could put it over 1. But simplified is just 30. So the answer there is 30. All right. So I hope this isn't too hard for you guys. Just remember, if you see these see these fractions with variables, just means to make 1 and use the multiply by the reciprocal. Okay, so flip them over and multiply so that they will do this diagonal crossing out. All right, have a good day.